The Grand Canyon, a name that conjures images of immense scale, of geological time etched into rock, of an almost alien beauty that can both inspire awe and instill a profound sense of our own insignificance. It's a place where nature reigns supreme, its vastness indifferent to the fleeting dramas of human existence. But what happens when this indifferent expanse becomes a stage for a human tragedy, a mystery that the Earth itself seems to swallow whole? In the spring of 1993, the Grand Canyon became just that, a place where two lives, those of newlyweds Randy and Joanne Johnson, were abruptly and inexplicably erased. They had embarked on what should have been a romantic adventure, a backpacking trip into the heart of the canyon, a shared experience designed to forge their new life together. Instead, their journey ended in a silence so complete, so absolute, that it has echoed for over 3 decades. They vanished. No note, no distress signal, no trace. Just an empty space where vibrant lives once were, leaving behind a void filled with unanswered questions and the persistent ache of the unknown. This isn't merely a story of a disappearance. It's a testament to the enduring grip of a mystery that time itself seemed powerless to resolve. For 31 years, the canyon held its secrets close, a silent, stoic guardian of a profound loss. Families and friends were left to grapple with a grief that had no resolution, a narrative that was brutally cut short. The wilderness, in its majestic and often unforgiving way, had claimed them, and the world moved on, the story relegated to the annals of unsolved cases, a haunting reminder of the vastness that can swallow even the most tangible of presences. Then, like a whisper from the deep past, something extraordinary happened. In the arid earth, a place that had yielded nothing for so long, a relic of their final journey began to surface. Their tent, not a scattered collection of tattered fabric, but a tent remarkably preserved, a tangible link to the moment their lives diverged from the path of the living. This discovery, occurring in the spring of 2024, isn't just a footnote to a cold case. It's a seismic event, a reawakening of a slumbering enigma. It's a moment where the desert, after decades of silent stewardship, finally begins to speak, offering not definitive answers, but a profound, almost unbelievable new chapter. This finding ignites a fresh wave of investigation, a renewed hope for closure, and a deep dive into the lives of Randy and Joanne, the circumstances of their ill-fated trip, and the relentless, often heartbreaking search that followed their disappearance. It's a narrative that probes the very essence of endurance, the endurance of love, the endurance of hope, and the endurance of the natural world that cradles both our greatest joys and our most profound sorrows. We are about to embark on a journey into the heart of this enduring mystery, to explore how a seemingly impossible discovery can breathe new life into a decades-old tragedy, and to understand the powerful, often humbling, relationship between humanity and the untamed forces of nature. This is a story that compels us to look at the Grand Canyon not just as a geological wonder, but as a repository of human stories, a place where the earth remembers and where, after an eternity, it might just begin to tell. The spring of 1993 marked a period of relative optimism and exploration for many, a stark contrast to the quiet dread that would soon envelop the Johnson family. Randy and Joanne Johnson, both in their late 20s, were not novice adventurers. Randy, a seasoned outdoorsman, had a deep familiarity with the rugged terrain of the American West, having spent considerable time hiking and camping in various national parks. Joanne, while perhaps less experienced, shared his passion for the natural world and embraced these expeditions as a way to deepen their bond. Their decision to undertake a multi-day backpacking trip into the Grand Canyon was the culmination of careful planning. They had secured the necessary permits, meticulously packed their gear, and informed friends and family of their itinerary, a standard procedure for anyone venturing into such a remote wilderness. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment, ill-prepared excursion. It was a deliberate choice, a testament to their shared love for the outdoors and their commitment to experiencing its grandeur together. The specific route they planned, though challenging, was well within their capabilities, suggesting a confidence in their abilities and a thorough understanding of the risks involved. Their departure from the South Rim on April 24, 1993, was uneventful, marked by the usual excitement and anticipation that precedes any significant journey. They were last seen by other hikers near the Tonto Trail Junction, a point where many trails converge, a place that would become a critical marker in the subsequent fruitless search. The initial search efforts, launched when Randy and Joanne failed to check in at their designated endpoint, were swift and comprehensive, leveraging the resources of the National Park Service and local rescue teams. These operations were characterized by a systematic approach, employing ground crews, aerial reconnaissance, and even specialized search dogs. The sheer scale of the Grand Canyon, however, presented an almost insurmountable challenge. Its labyrinthine canyons, sheer cliffs, and vast, often featureless plateaus meant that any search area was immense, and the possibility of a single lost item or individual being overlooked was alarmingly high. The terrain itself became an adversary, its ruggedness making thorough investigation slow and arduous. Furthermore, the weather conditions during the search period added another layer of difficulty. While spring can bring pleasant temperatures, the canyon's microclimates are notoriously unpredictable, with sudden temperature drops, flash floods, and high winds capable of obscuring tracks and hindering operations. The search teams meticulously combed known trails, potential campsites, and areas where the couple might have deviated from their planned route. They interviewed other hikers who had been in the vicinity, piecing together fragmented sightings and timelines. Despite these exhaustive efforts, no definitive clues emerged. The canyon seemed to have absorbed them, leaving no tangible evidence of their fate. This lack of any trace amplified the mystery, fueling speculation and deepening the anguish of their families. The initial hope that they had simply taken a wrong turn and would eventually find their way back began to wane, replaced by the grim realization that something far more serious had occurred. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the official search was scaled back, transitioning from an active rescue operation to a cold case investigation. The park rangers and investigators continued to review the limited information, re-examining maps and revisiting potential scenarios. But the well of leads had run dry. The absence of any physical evidence, a dropped item, a discarded piece of equipment, or even a distress signal, was particularly baffling. In wilderness survival situations, even the most dire circumstances often leave some imprint, some indication of what transpired. The Johnsons' disappearance, however, was characterized by an almost supernatural completeness. This lack of closure became a heavy burden for their families, who were left to contend with a profound uncertainty. They were denied the solace that comes from knowing, even if the knowledge is tragic. The void left by Randy and Joanne was not just an absence of presence, but an absence of narrative, of explanation. This enduring mystery also captured the public imagination, becoming one of the more haunting, unsolved cases associated with the Grand Canyon, a place already imbued with a certain mystique and a reputation for claiming those who venture too deep into its embrace. The story served as a stark reminder of the raw power of nature and the vulnerability of human beings within its vastness. The initial investigation into the Johnsons' disappearance explored several possibilities, each weighed against the available, albeit scarce, evidence. Accidental fall was a primary consideration given the treacherous nature of the canyon's terrain. However, the lack of any discovered remains or personal belongings in the immediate vicinity of their planned route made this scenario difficult to confirm. If they had fallen, it was presumed they would have been in an area where their bodies might have been located, or at least their gear would have been found scattered. Another line of inquiry focused on the possibility of them becoming lost, succumbing to dehydration or exposure, yet their experience and preparation suggested they were unlikely to have become disoriented to the point of no return without leaving some sign of their struggle. The sheer thoroughness of the initial search, which covered extensive ground, made it less probable that they simply wandered off and perished unseen. The remote possibility of foul play was also considered, though there was never any evidence to support such a theory. The Park Service and law enforcement agencies interviewed individuals who had been in the area, and no suspicious activity was reported. The Johnsons were well liked, with no known enemies or reasons to disappear voluntarily. This lack of any clear explanation, coupled with the absence of any concrete clues, led the case to be classified as an unexplained disappearance, a category that signifies the ultimate impasse in investigative efforts. The canyon, in its immense and silent way, had effectively swallowed the truth, leaving investigators and the families of Randy and Joanne in a state of perpetual, agonizing uncertainty. The enduring mystery of Randy and Joanne Johnson's disappearance became a recurring topic in discussions about Grand Canyon enigmas, a case study in how the wilderness can confound even the most diligent efforts to uncover the truth. For years, their story served as a cautionary tale, a stark illustration of the unforgiving nature of the environment and the limitations of human search capabilities in such a vast and complex landscape. Investigators, while respecting the privacy of the family, would occasionally revisit the case files, hoping that some new piece of information, however small, might emerge. This often involved reviewing old reports, cross-referencing them with other incidents, or considering new technologies that might have been useful at the time. However, without a breakthrough, the case remained suspended, a puzzle with too many missing pieces. The Park Service, while committed to its duty, operates under the reality that some mysteries, particularly in remote wilderness areas, may never be fully resolved. The sheer immensity of the Grand Canyon means that vast tracts of land remain virtually unexplored, and the possibility of remains or evidence being hidden by geological shifts, erosion, or simply time is ever present. The Johnsons' case therefore became emblematic of this enduring challenge, a testament to the fact that nature, in its rawest form, can hold onto its secrets with an unyielding grip, defying human attempts to impose order and explanation. The discovery of the tent in 2024, after 31 years, represents an extraordinary divergence from the typical trajectory of unsolved wilderness disappearances. It's a phenomenon that defies conventional expectations of decay and environmental degradation. Typically, fabric items left exposed in the elements for decades would have decomposed, been scavenged by animals, or been buried by sediment and erosion. The fact that this tent was found remarkably intact suggests a unique set of circumstances. Perhaps it was buried very quickly after the event, protected from sunlight, moisture, and wind, the very agents of decay. Alternatively, its location might have been in a microenvironment that offered unusual preservation qualities. This unexpected preservation is not just a matter of curiosity. It's a critical development that could potentially unlock elements of the mystery that have remained hidden for so long. The tent itself, as a physical artifact, is a tangible link to the Johnsons' final moments. Its contents, whatever they may be, could offer insights into their state of mind, their activities, or even provide clues about what led to their vanishing. This find is more than just finding an object. It's the potential retrieval of a narrative fragment, a piece of the story that the canyon had guarded so fiercely and which may now, finally, begin to be told. The unearthed tent, a spectral artifact from 1993, isn't merely a physical object. It represents a profound shift in how the Grand Canyon's silence can be interpreted. For decades, the absence of any sign from Randy and Joanne Johnson was interpreted as a complete erasure, a testament to nature's power to absorb and obliterate. However, this reappearance radically alters that perception. It suggests that the desert, rather than simply consuming, might have also acted as a preserver, a unique kind of tomb that, under specific rare conditions, can protect rather than degrade. This notion challenges the common understanding of wilderness decay, pushing us to consider the nuanced ways geological environments can interact with organic materials over extended periods. Now, consider how this applies when you face the seemingly insurmountable. The tent's survival implies that even in the most extreme and seemingly indifferent environments, pockets of preservation can exist, offering a glimmer of hope where previously there was only the certainty of loss. This isn't about finding a needle in a haystack. It's about the haystack itself, revealing an unexpected, well-preserved needle that was there all along, just hidden by the very nature of its surroundings. The implications extend beyond this specific case, prompting a re-evaluation of how we approach cold cases in vast natural settings. What if other such artifacts lie dormant, waiting for geological shifts or erosion to reveal them? Furthermore, the discovery necessitates a meticulous, almost forensic examination of the tent and its immediate surroundings. This isn't a simple retrieval, it's an archaeological endeavor. Scientists and investigators will be looking for micro-clues, soil composition, pollen grains, insect remains, and the specific manner in which the tent fabric has degraded, if at all. The very condition of the tent can speak volumes. Is it intact because it was rapidly buried by a landslide or flash flood, creating an anaerobic environment? Or was it somehow shielded by a rock overhang or a unique soil layer? Each possibility paints a different picture of the Johnsons' final moments and the forces that acted upon their campsite. Imagine a time capsule, not intentionally buried, but sealed by the very earth it rested upon. The tent's reappearance, therefore, is not just an end to the mystery, but the beginning of a new scientific investigation into the canyon's geological history as it pertains to this specific event. This process requires a multidisciplinary approach, bringing together archaeologists, geologists, forensic anthropologists, and park rangers, each contributing their unique expertise to interpret the silent testimony of the retrieved artifact. The goal is to extract as much information as possible, not just about the Johnsons, but about the environmental conditions that allowed this improbable preservation to occur. Building on this, however, the psychological impact of such a discovery cannot be overstated. For the families of Randy and Joanne, who have lived with unresolved grief and gnawing uncertainty for over 3 decades, the tent represents a tangible connection to their lost loved ones. It's a physical manifestation of a memory, a chance to potentially understand, even if the understanding is painful. This isn't about finding definitive answers that erase all pain, but about moving from a state of utter unknowing to one where narrative can begin to form. Consider the weight lifted, or perhaps the new weight assumed, when a decades-long question mark is finally given a physical anchor. This anchor, the tent, allows for a more grounded engagement with the past, transforming abstract speculation into concrete investigation. It offers the possibility of closure, a concept that has remained elusive for so long, transforming the enduring ache of mystery into a more defined, albeit still sorrowful, understanding of events. The tent becomes a focal point, a place where memories can be anchored and where the process of healing, however long it may take, can gain new momentum. Conversely, the presence of the tent also amplifies the potential for new questions and complex ethical considerations. If the tent reveals evidence of a struggle or a specific cause of death, how will that information be processed and shared? The Park Service and the Johnsons family will face the delicate task of navigating these revelations, balancing the public's interest in the story with the deeply personal nature of the findings. Furthermore, the retrieval of the tent itself raises questions about preservation. Should it be studied extensively and then carefully conserved, or should it be returned to the family as a personal memento? These are not simple decisions, and they highlight the intricate interplay between scientific inquiry, historical preservation, and individual human experience. The tent, in its silent reappearance, forces a confrontation with these complex issues, reminding us that even in the vast indifference of nature, human emotions, ethical responsibilities, and the pursuit of truth remain paramount. The physical object becomes a catalyst for a deeper dialogue about memory, loss, and the responsibility we have to the stories of those who have gone before us. The scientific examination of the recovered tent and its surrounding environment opens a new frontier in understanding the Johnsons' fate, moving beyond speculation to empirical data. This phase of investigation is less about emotional closure and more about uncovering the objective how and why of their disappearance through meticulous analysis. Scientists will employ advanced techniques to date the materials, looking for isotopic signatures in any organic matter or traces of specific chemicals that might indicate environmental conditions at the time. For instance, analyzing the soil composition directly beneath and around the tent could reveal evidence of rapid burial by a flood event, a mudslide, or even a deliberate covering. Such findings would offer a compelling narrative of the forces that acted upon the Johnsons and their campsite. Consider how the strata of soil, like layers of historical record, can provide undeniable evidence of past events, each grain a silent witness to geological processes. Furthermore, the study of any preserved biological material, such as plant fragments or insect exoskeletons trapped within the tent's fabric or the soil, can reconstruct the microenvironment at the time of their disappearance, offering insights into temperature, humidity, and even the presence of specific flora and fauna that might have played a role. Moreover, the very condition of the tent's materials, beyond simple preservation, can yield crucial information. Researchers will assess the tensile strength of the fabric, analyze any degradation patterns, and examine the integrity of seams and zippers. If the tent shows signs of extreme stress, such as rips or tears that don't align with typical wear and tear, it could suggest a forceful event, perhaps related to weather or an interaction with wildlife, though the absence of extensive damage speaks to a different story. Conversely, if the tent is remarkably pristine, almost as if it were packed away recently, it might point towards an unusual burial process that effectively sealed it from the elements. Now, think about the intricate science of material degradation, how even the most robust materials succumb to time and environment, and how deviations from expected decay patterns are significant indicators of unique circumstances. This scientific scrutiny allows for the reconstruction of the physical events that transpired, providing a factual basis for understanding the Johnsons' final hours. The tent, in this context, transforms from a mere relic into a scientific instrument, a time capsule whose very structure and composition hold the keys to unlocking a dormant history. The investigation into the tent's recovery also presents a unique opportunity to study the long-term effects of geological processes on human artifacts in an extreme environment. The Grand Canyon, with its constant erosion, deposition, and seismic activity, is a dynamic landscape. The fact that the tent survived suggests it was located in a geologically stable pocket, shielded from the forces that would typically obliterate such evidence. Understanding these specific micro-environmental conditions could have broader implications for archaeological studies in similar arid and rugged terrains. It prompts a consideration of how our understanding of artifact survival is often based on more temperate or accessible environments, and how extreme conditions might preserve things in ways we haven't fully anticipated. Consider how a perfectly preserved fossil is not just a story of the organism, but also a story of the sediment, the pressure, and the time that protected it from decay. Similarly, the Johnson's tent is a testament to the specific geological narrative of its resting place. This understanding can inform future search and recovery efforts, as well as archaeological expeditions, by highlighting areas or conditions that might favor preservation. Consequently, the analysis extends to the broader ecological context of the discovery site, examining the types of vegetation, soil, invertebrates, and even microscopic organisms present can offer clues about the environment at the time of the Johnson's disappearance and how it may have changed. For instance, if the soil analysis reveals a high concentration of specific minerals or a unique microbial community, it could indicate the presence of a water source or a particular type of geological formation that influenced the site's stability. This ecological perspective allows for a more holistic reconstruction of the events, embedding the Johnson's fate within the larger environmental narrative of the Grand Canyon. Imagine piecing together a complex ecosystem by studying the smallest of its inhabitants. Each element, no matter how minute, plays a role in the larger picture. This comprehensive approach aims to move beyond simply identifying the cause of death or disappearance, and instead seeks to understand the intricate interplay of human presence, geological forces, and ecological conditions that culminated in this decades-old mystery's unexpected resurfacing. The scientific inquiry into the recovered tent and its surroundings transcends mere artifact analysis. It delves into the subtle language of environmental forensics. Beyond the immediate physical evidence, researchers are now scrutinizing the microscopic world trapped within the tent's fibers and the surrounding soil. This involves sophisticated techniques like DNA analysis, not just for human remains, but for environmental DNA, eDNA, the genetic material shed by any organism that inhabited the area. Imagine tiny biological fingerprints left behind by ancient flora, fauna, or even microbial communities that have long since vanished. Detecting these residual genetic traces can paint an incredibly detailed picture of the ecosystem as it existed in 1993, potentially identifying species that are now rare or extinct in that specific locale. This level of detail can help pinpoint the exact ecological niche the Johnsons occupied and the specific environmental pressures they might have encountered, offering a context that goes far beyond simple assumptions about desert survival. Furthermore, the analysis extends to the very composition of the soil, looking for anomalies that indicate unusual deposition. Techniques such as X-ray fluorescence, XRF, or inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry, ICP-MS, can reveal the elemental makeup of the soil samples. A sudden, localized concentration of certain minerals, for instance, might suggest a flash flood event that rapidly buried the campsite, or perhaps the presence of a mineral-rich water source that subsequently dried up. Now, consider how geologists interpret rock strata to understand millennia of Earth's history. In a similar vein, these elemental signatures in the soil can act as localized historical markers, telling the story of that specific patch of ground over the past 3 decades. This granular understanding of the soil's composition provides critical data points, helping to reconstruct the sequence of events that led to the tent's burial and subsequent preservation. Another crucial layer involves examining the macroscopic evidence for signs of rapid sedimentation or debris flow. The degree of soil compaction, the presence of sediment layers with differing textures, and the orientation of any embedded organic matter, like small twigs or leaves, can all provide clues about the speed and nature of the deposition process. If the tent appears to be encased in a homogeneous layer of fine silt, it might suggest a slow burial by wind-blown dust, a process that would offer excellent preservation but take a considerable amount of time. Conversely, if it's found within a jumble of coarser debris and larger sediment particles, it could indicate a more violent event, such as a debris flow or a flash flood, which would have rapidly entombed the campsite. Think of how an avalanche can instantly bury an object, preserving it in a frozen moment. Similar physical evidence in the soil can point to comparable, albeit perhaps less dramatic, rapid burial events. This detailed geological assessment is vital for understanding not just how the tent was preserved, but also what might have happened to Randy and Joanne themselves during the event that caused its burial. Consequently, the investigation is also scrutinizing the potential for any interaction with the local fauna, even if the evidence is subtle. While large animal scavengers are unlikely to have left the tent intact, microscopic analysis of the fabric might reveal traces of insect activity or microbial colonization that occurred before burial. If such evidence is absent or minimal, it further supports the hypothesis of rapid and complete encapsulation. Conversely, if specific types of insect larvae or microbial biofilms are found, it could indicate a period of exposure before the burial, suggesting a different sequence of events. Consider how forensic entomologists use insect life cycles to estimate time of death. In this context, any insect evidence, or lack thereof, can serve as a temporal marker for the period between the Johnsons' disappearance and the tent's burial. This nuanced approach to environmental evidence allows for a more comprehensive reconstruction, moving beyond broad hypotheses to a more precise understanding of the physical circumstances surrounding the Johnsons' final known moments and the subsequent preservation of their campsite. The implications of the tent's discovery extend far beyond the immediate scientific reconstruction of events. They touch upon the profound psychological and societal impact of a resurfaced mystery. For the families of Randy and Joanne, this find represents a tangible link to a past shrouded in uncertainty. It offers a potential pathway toward a more concrete understanding, moving from abstract speculation to the examination of physical evidence. This is not about erasing grief, which remains an indelible part of their experience, but about transforming the nature of that grief. Imagine a wound that has festered for decades, never properly cleaned or healed. The discovery acts as a catalyst for a more effective, albeit potentially painful, process of tending to that wound. The tent becomes a focal point for remembrance, a physical anchor for memories that might have otherwise remained fragmented and elusive. This allows for a more grounded engagement with their loss, providing a narrative thread where previously there was only a void. Furthermore, the resurfacing of this decades-old enigma forces a societal re-engagement with themes of nature's power, human vulnerability, and the enduring quest for closure. The Grand Canyon, often viewed as a static, majestic landscape, is revealed here as an active participant in human stories, capable of both concealment and, under rare circumstances, revelation. This challenges our anthropocentric view of the world, reminding us that natural environments operate on scales and timelines far removed from human comprehension. Consider how an ancient ruin, buried for centuries, re-emerges to tell us about a lost civilization. Similarly, the tent's appearance offers a new chapter to a story that many believed was permanently closed. It prompts reflection on how we interpret and respond to the vastness of the unknown and the deep-seated human need for resolution in the face of tragedy. The discovery reignites public interest, not just in the specifics of the Johnsons case, but in the broader questions it raises about life, death, and the boundaries of our knowledge. The ethical considerations surrounding the recovery and handling of the tent are also paramount. The scientific imperative to extract every possible piece of information must be carefully balanced with the deeply personal nature of the find for the surviving family members. Decisions regarding the preservation, display, or return of the artifact will involve complex considerations, reflecting the tension between public interest in a historical mystery and the private grief of those most directly affected. Now picture the delicate process of handling a fragile historical document. It requires both scientific rigor and profound respect for its origin and meaning. The tent, in this regard, is more than just a piece of evidence. It is a potent symbol of a lost chapter in a family's history. This necessitates a thoughtful and compassionate approach, ensuring that the pursuit of truth does not inadvertently cause further pain or disrespect the memory of Randy and Joanne. The ultimate disposition of the tent will likely be a decision shaped by a confluence of scientific necessity, legal protocols, and the expressed wishes of the Johnson family, underscoring the human element that is inextricably linked to even the most scientific of investigations. Finally, the reappearance of the tent compels us to reconsider the very nature of closure. For the Johnsons' loved ones, closure may not come in the form of a definitive, simple answer, but in the gradual process of understanding and integrating this new information into their lived experience. The tent offers a chance to move from a state of perpetual questioning to one where a more complete, albeit perhaps somber, narrative can be constructed. Think of how a fragmented story can be pieced together, not to erase the missing parts, but to create a cohesive whole that allows for a deeper comprehension. This discovery provides a tangible focal point for that process, allowing for a more informed remembrance and a potentially more peaceful coexistence with the unresolved aspects of the tragedy. It's a reminder that closure is not always an end point, but often a journey of understanding and acceptance. A journey that, thanks to this extraordinary discovery, can now proceed with a clearer, though still challenging, path forward. The meticulous scientific examination of the recovered tent and its immediate vicinity is now delving into the microscopic signatures left by the environment, a process akin to reading the canyon's most intimate diary. Beyond the obvious physical evidence, researchers are employing advanced techniques to analyze the environmental DNA, eDNA, present in soil samples and trapped within the tent's fibers. This eDNA acts as a biological archive containing genetic material shed by organisms that inhabited the area. Now consider how a detective uses trace evidence like hair or skin cells to identify a suspect. In a similar fashion, eDNA can reveal the presence of specific plant species, microbial communities, or even insect populations that were active around the time of the Johnsons' disappearance. Detecting these residual genetic markers can reconstruct the precise ecological niche they occupied, offering a granular understanding of the environment that goes far beyond general assumptions about desert survival. This level of detail allows for a more nuanced interpretation of the conditions they might have faced, potentially highlighting unusual ecological factors that played a role in their fate. Furthermore, the analysis of the soil itself is yielding critical insights. Scientists are utilizing elemental analysis techniques, such as X-ray fluorescence, to determine the precise chemical composition of the soil layers surrounding the tent. A localized anomaly in mineral concentrations, for instance, might indicate a past event like a flash flood that rapidly deposited sediment, or the presence of a mineral-rich water source that has since dried up. Building on this, imagine how geologists interpret the distinct layers of rock in a canyon wall to chart eons of geological history. These elemental signatures in the soil act as localized historical markers, narrating the specific events that occurred on that particular patch of ground over the past 3 decades. This granular understanding of the soil's makeup provides crucial data points, helping to reconstruct the sequence of events that led to the tent's burial and subsequent preservation. Another crucial layer of investigation involves assessing the macroscopic evidence for signs of rapid sedimentation or debris flow. The degree of soil compaction, the texture of sediment layers, and the orientation of any embedded organic matter, such as small twigs or leaves, can all provide clues about the speed and nature of the deposition process. If the tent is encased in a homogeneous layer of fine silt, it might suggest a slow burial by wind-blown dust, a process conducive to excellent preservation, but one that unfolds over an extended period. Conversely, if it's found within a jumble of coarser debris and larger sediment particles, it could indicate a more violent event, such as a debris flow or a flash flood, which would have rapidly entombed the campsite. Now, consider how an avalanche can instantly bury an object, preserving it in a frozen moment. Similar physical evidence within the soil can point to comparable, albeit perhaps less dramatic, rapid burial events. This detailed geological assessment is vital for understanding not just how the tent was preserved, but also what might have happened to Randy and Joanne themselves during the event that caused its burial. Consequently, the investigation is also scrutinizing the potential for any interaction with the local fauna, even if the evidence is subtle. While large animal scavengers are unlikely to have left the tent intact, microscopic analysis of the fabric might reveal traces of insect activity or microbial colonization that occurred before burial. If such evidence is absent or minimal, it further supports the hypothesis of rapid and complete encapsulation. Conversely, if specific types of insect larvae or microbial biofilms are found, it could indicate a period of exposure before the burial, suggesting a different sequence of events. Imagine how forensic entomologists use insect life cycles to estimate time of death. In this context, any insect evidence or lack thereof can serve as a temporal marker for the period between the Johnsons' disappearance and the tent's burial. This nuanced approach to environmental evidence allows for a more comprehensive reconstruction, moving beyond broad hypotheses to a more precise understanding of the physical circumstances surrounding the Johnsons' final known moments and the subsequent preservation of their campsite. The preservation of the Johnsons' tent, while scientifically fascinating, also casts a long shadow over the ethical considerations of recovering and interpreting such deeply personal artifacts. Now consider how this applies when you confront a tangible link to a decades-old tragedy. The immediate impulse might be to dissect every inch, to extract every possible iota of information. However, this tent is not merely a specimen, it is a monument to a lost chapter of a family's life. The Park Service and investigators face the delicate balancing act of scientific inquiry versus profound respect for the Johnsons' memory and their surviving loved ones. Imagine the weight of responsibility in deciding what happens to a sacred relic. Should it be meticulously preserved in a climate-controlled archive, accessible only to researchers, thereby contributing to the broader scientific understanding of wilderness preservation? Or does its significance lie primarily in its connection to the family, suggesting it should be returned to them as a deeply personal, albeit sorrowful, memento? These are not abstract questions. They involve navigating complex emotional terrain and respecting the autonomy of the family who have endured unimaginable loss. Furthermore, the process of scientific analysis itself carries ethical implications. While modern forensic techniques can reveal an astonishing amount of detail, there's a point where the pursuit of data might inadvertently violate the privacy or dignity of the deceased. For instance, If DNA analysis were to reveal something deeply personal or unexpected about the Johnsons' final moments, the decision of how and whether to disclose such information would be fraught with ethical challenges. Think of how a historian grapples with the responsibility of presenting sensitive historical accounts. The goal is to inform without sensationalizing or causing undue distress. The Park Service must operate with an acute awareness of this, ensuring that the scientific narrative does not overshadow the human story, and that any revelations are handled with the utmost sensitivity and discretion, always prioritizing the well-being of the surviving family. Consequently, the long-term disposition of the tent becomes a focal point for these ethical deliberations. If it is retained for scientific study, there's a responsibility to ensure its preservation for future generations of researchers, while also considering how its story is communicated to the public. This might involve curated exhibits or carefully worded scientific reports that acknowledge its profound human context. Conversely, if it is returned to the family, the ethical considerations shift towards supporting their process of remembrance and healing. This could involve facilitating their own private memorialization or providing resources for navigating the complex emotions that such an artifact might evoke. Now, consider how a community might collectively decide to preserve a historical landmark. The process involves balancing public access and educational value with the site's intrinsic significance and the community's emotional connection to it. The tent, in its unique way, demands a similar thoughtful consideration of its multifaceted value. Conversely, the potential for the tent to become a site of morbid curiosity for the public also presents an ethical challenge. The allure of unsolved mysteries can sometimes overshadow the genuine human tragedy at their core. Investigators and park officials must work to manage public interest responsibly, ensuring that the story of Randy and Joanne Johnson is treated with respect and dignity, rather than becoming fodder for sensationalism. Imagine how a memorial site is protected from disrespectful behavior. There's a need to establish boundaries and foster an atmosphere of solemn remembrance. This involves careful communication, emphasizing the human element of the story and discouraging exploitative speculation. The tent, therefore, is not just an object of scientific and familial significance. It is also a symbol that requires careful stewardship to ensure its narrative is honored, not exploited, and that the memory of those it represents is preserved with the dignity they deserve. The survival of the Johnsons' tent has unearthed a fascinating scientific conundrum, the phenomenon of exceptional preservation in arid environments. Beyond the immediate implications for the case, this discovery prompts a deeper exploration into the unique geological and atmospheric conditions that can essentially create natural time capsules. Now, consider how geological formations themselves act as archives of deep time. In a similar vein, specific microclimates within the Grand Canyon can preserve organic materials for decades, even centuries, far beyond what might be expected in more temperate or humid regions. This often involves a delicate interplay of factors: extremely low humidity, consistent low temperatures, especially at higher elevations or within shaded canyons, minimal biological activity due to the harsh conditions, and, crucially, rapid burial by fine inert sediments such as silt or fine sand. This rapid encapsulation effectively seals the object from oxygen and moisture, the primary agents of decomposition. Imagine an artifact sealed within a perfectly dry, inert powder. Its degradation would be incredibly slow. The specific mineral composition of these sediments can also play a role, sometimes creating a slightly alkaline environment that further inhibits microbial breakdown. Furthermore, the prevailing wind patterns and topographical features of the Grand Canyon contribute significantly to this preservation. Areas shielded from direct sunlight and prevailing winds, such as narrow side canyons, deep crevices, or beneath significant rock overhangs, can maintain remarkably stable microclimates. The constant erosion and deposition processes, while destructive in many instances, can also, paradoxically, serve to bury and protect items from further exposure. Think of how ancient artifacts are often found buried beneath layers of accumulated earth, protected from the elements until excavation. In the Johnsons' case, it's plausible that a localized event, perhaps a minor rockfall or a sudden surge of wind-driven sand, rapidly covered their tent, creating the very conditions necessary for its improbable survival. Understanding these specific micro-environmental dynamics is crucial, as it can inform future archaeological and forensic investigations in similar desert landscapes, suggesting where and how such preservation might occur. Building on this, the chemical signature of the soil surrounding the tent offers another layer of scientific intrigue. Advanced spectroscopic analysis can detect trace elements and compounds that might indicate the specific geological strata from which the sediment originated. This provides clues about the canyon's geological history at that precise location and the processes that led to the sediment's deposition. For instance, a high concentration of gypsum or calcite might point to specific sedimentary rock layers that were eroded and transported to the site. Now, consider how forensic scientists analyze soil on a suspect's shoe to link them to a crime scene. Here, the soil composition acts as a witness, testifying to the geological origins and transport mechanisms that led to the tent's burial. This chemical fingerprint can corroborate or refine hypotheses about the environmental event that occurred, offering a more precise timeline and understanding of the forces at play. It's a silent narrative written in the very earth that has held the Johnsons' story captive for so long. Consequently, the study of the tent's materials themselves, beyond simple structural integrity, can yield further environmental data. Researchers might analyze the degree of photodegradation, damage from sunlight, or the presence of specific types of mineral efflorescence, salt deposits, on the fabric. The absence of significant photodegradation, for example, would strongly support the theory that the tent was quickly buried and remained shielded from direct sunlight. Similarly, the type and extent of salt deposits can indicate the moisture content of the soil over time and the specific mineral composition of any water that might have been present. Imagine how a curator analyzes the fading of ancient textiles to understand their exposure history. In this context, these subtle chemical and physical changes on the tent fabric offer direct evidence of its environmental journey. This multifaceted scientific approach transforms the recovered tent from a mere relic into a rich source of environmental data, shedding light not only on the Johnsons' fate, but also on the remarkable preservative powers of the Grand Canyon's unique, arid ecosystem. The reappearance of the Johnsons' tent does more than just reopen a cold case. It fundamentally alters our perception of how wilderness environments interact with human presence over extended durations. This discovery forces a reassessment of the common narrative of nature as solely an agent of erasure, an indifferent force that eventually reclaims and dissolves all traces of human activity. Instead, it highlights the complex and often contradictory role of the environment as both a preserver and a concealer. Now consider how a seemingly immutable mountain range is constantly sculpted by wind and water, revealing and burying features over geological epochs. Similarly, the Grand Canyon, through its dynamic processes, can both erase evidence and, under exceptional circumstances, create pockets of preservation. This duality means that the absence of evidence is not always definitive proof of non-existence, but can sometimes signify a temporary state of concealment, awaiting a shift in geological or atmospheric conditions to bring it to light. Furthermore, this event prompts a deeper dive into the psychological impact of prolonged ambiguity on affected families and communities. For over 3 decades, the Johnsons' loved ones have lived with an unresolved narrative, a story with a gaping hole where the ending should be. The discovery of the tent, while not providing immediate answers, offers a tangible anchor for their grief and a focal point for investigation. Imagine the profound shift for someone who has spent years grappling with abstract possibilities, suddenly presented with a concrete object that was a part of their loved one's final journey. This shift can be both cathartic and intensely challenging, transforming the abstract pain of not knowing into the more concrete, though still difficult process of confronting potential truths. The tent becomes a repository of memories, a physical testament to a life, and a catalyst for a new phase of emotional processing, moving from a state of perpetual questioning to one of active, albeit painful, inquiry. Building on this, the case underscores the limitations of conventional search and rescue protocols when confronted with the sheer scale and unforgiving nature of environments like the Grand Canyon. While protocols are designed to maximize the chances of finding missing individuals, the Johnsons' story illustrates that even the most thorough efforts can be confounded by the wilderness's inherent unpredictability. The fact that their tent remained undiscovered for so long, despite extensive searches, points to the possibility that it was located in an area that was either overlooked, inaccessible at the time, or whose subtle geological features masked its presence. Think of how a seasoned tracker understands that even the most obvious signs can be obscured by a sudden storm or a shift in terrain. Similarly, the canyon's vastness can conceal even significant evidence. This highlights the ongoing need for innovation in search technologies and strategies, as well as a greater understanding of how environmental factors can influence the visibility and discoverability of evidence over time. Conversely, the discovery also serves as a powerful reminder of the enduring resilience of hope, even in the face of overwhelming odds. For the families and friends of Randy and Joanne, the passage of 31 years did not extinguish the desire for answers or the hope for some form of resolution. This enduring hope, coupled with the relentless dedication of investigators who kept the case file active, ultimately led to this extraordinary breakthrough. Imagine a single candle burning steadily in a vast, dark cavern. That candle represents the persistent flicker of hope that can illuminate even the most seemingly insurmountable challenges. The reappearance of the tent is a testament to the fact that sometimes, against all statistical probability, the truth can indeed surface, offering a chance for understanding and a measure of peace, however long it may take to arrive. This narrative arc, from inexplicable disappearance to improbable discovery, emphasizes the profound human capacity to persevere in the pursuit of closure. Reflecting on this journey so far, we've navigated the intricate layers of an enduring enigma, a story etched not just in the arid earth, but in the persistent human spirit. The vast, indifferent canvas of the Grand Canyon, once a silent witness to an inexplicable vanishing, has, in its own time, begun to reveal fragments of a narrative long held captive. The very forces that once seemed to swallow lives whole now appear to have, in a peculiar twist of nature's grand design, acted as guardians, preserving a tangible echo of lives lived and abruptly halted. We've seen how the relentless passage of time, which typically erodes and disperses, can, under specific, almost miraculous circumstances, coalesce into a preservation that defies expectation, offering a spectral bridge across decades of unanswered questions. This convergence of scientific inquiry and profound human experience has begun to illuminate the intricate interplay between our fragile existence and the immense, often inscrutable power of the natural world. As we pivot towards the final reflection, consider how the threads of scientific investigation, ethical deliberation, and the deep-seated human quest for understanding have woven together. The initial silence of the canyon, a deafening void for so long, is now being punctuated by the subtle yet significant language of the earth itself. This unfolding revelation is akin to deciphering an ancient text, where each newly discovered symbol reshapes our comprehension of the entire passage, not by erasing what came before, but by deepening its meaning and context. The insights gleaned from these explorations collectively point toward a broader understanding of how mysteries are unraveled, not always through dramatic pronouncements, but often through the patient accumulation of evidence and the persistent application of human curiosity and resilience. The journey thus far has prepared us to contemplate the ultimate significance of this unfolding story, moving beyond the immediate facts towards a more profound contemplation of what this enduring enigma teaches us about ourselves and our place within the grand tapestry of existence. The story of Randy and Joanne Johnson, once a stark testament to the Grand Canyon's formidable power to conceal, has transformed into a profound narrative of nature's intricate relationship with time and memory. The reappearance of their tent, a relic unearthed after 3 decades of silent interment, is not merely the closing of a chapter in a cold case, but a powerful testament to the enduring resonance of human stories within the vast, indifferent expanse of the natural world. It's a stark reminder that while the earth may hold its secrets with an unyielding grip, the forces that shape our planet, erosion, deposition, and the subtle shifts of geological time, can, in their own inscrutable way, also become agents of revelation. This discovery compels us to re-evaluate our perception of wilderness, shifting it from a purely destructive force to one capable of intricate preservation, a silent archivist holding fragments of our past. The canyon, which once seemed to have irrevocably swallowed their lives, has in a sense offered a carefully preserved echo, a physical anchor for a mystery that had previously floated adrift in the realm of the unknown. This unfolding saga underscores a fundamental truth about our place in the grand scheme of existence, that our narratives, however fleeting, can leave indelible marks, imprinted not just on the hearts of those who love us, but on the very fabric of the earth. The Johnson's tent, emerging from the arid soil, is more than just an artifact. It is a symbol of endurance, the endurance of memory, the endurance of hope, and the profound, often humbling resilience of the human spirit in the face of profound loss. It speaks to the universal human need for closure, for narrative coherence, and for the understanding that even in the face of overwhelming natural forces, the pursuit of truth and connection remains a deeply ingrained imperative. The meticulous scientific investigation, the ethical considerations, and the emotional weight carried by this discovery collectively illustrate the complex, often intertwined, nature of unraveling mysteries, reminding us that closure is not always a definitive end, but a journey of understanding and integration. Ultimately, the story of Randy and Joanne Johnson, catalyzed by the improbable reappearance of their tent, serves as a potent reminder of the enduring power of curiosity and the profound lessons that nature, in its most awe-inspiring and challenging forms, continues to offer. It is a narrative that encourages us to look beyond the immediate, to appreciate the subtle ways in which the past continues to inform the present, and to recognize the echoes of human experience that resonate within the silent grandeur of our planet. The true practice begins now, to carry forward the lessons learned, to embrace the complexities of unresolved narratives with a blend of scientific rigor and compassionate understanding, and to continually seek knowledge not just for its own sake, but for the deeper human connection it fosters. For in understanding the stories that the earth remembers, we come to better understand ourselves.